Did you know that in 2026, over 3 million Texans woke up to new laws that quietly reshaped their daily lives, and most of them had no idea it even happened? We're talking about changes that affect how you vote, where your kids go to school, what you're allowed to post online, and even whether your city can make its own rules anymore. These aren't small tweaks, they're game changers, and yet hardly anyone's talking about them. Some of these laws were passed in the middle of the night. Others were buried in bills with boring names, hiding major changes behind vague legal language. And while you were living your everyday life, going to work, paying bills, scrolling through TikTok, the rules were quietly rewritten. Now it's 2026 and things are not the same anymore. So why wasn't anyone warned? And more importantly, what does this mean for you? Stick around because we're breaking down 10 major rule changes you need to know about before they catch you off guard. Number 1. Voter ID laws got stricter. In 2026, Texas quietly updated its voter ID laws. And let's just say, if you haven't checked the rules lately, there's a real chance you might not be allowed to vote in the next election. These changes aren't just a technical update, they've made it much harder for certain groups of people to cast their ballots. Here's what happened. The state reduced the list of acceptable forms of ID. Some documents that were valid just 2 years ago, like out-of-state licenses, student IDs, or even expired voter cards, are now being rejected. The result? Hundreds of thousands of legal voters may now be blocked at the polls without even realizing it until it's too late. This change affects a lot of people, especially college students, the elderly, and low-income Texans who may not have easy access to updated identification. And it doesn't help that many counties aren't required to notify voters directly about the law shift. That means unless you're actively checking for updates, you could walk into a polling place thinking you're good, only to be turned away. Why should you care? Because voting isn't just a right, it's your voice. And without the right ID, that voice can be taken from you silently. If you live in Texas, now is the time to double-check your voter registration, review the latest ID requirements, and make sure your documents are up to date. Don't wait until the next election day to find out you've been locked out. This isn't just about politics, it's about protecting your power as a citizen. Number 2, but not where you'd expect. In early 2026, Texas officially banned TikTok, not across the entire state, but in a way that still affects millions of people. If you're a student, a teacher, or work at a public university, your access to TikTok may have already been shut down without warning. Here's how it works. A new law now blocks TikTok on all state-funded networks and devices. That means public schools, universities, and even some government buildings must remove the app and prevent it from being used on their Wi-Fi. One day you're scrolling in the campus library, the next, error message. And it's not just about TikTok, it's about who controls what you can access online. The official reason behind the ban? National security risks. Lawmakers claim the app collects too much data and could be used by foreign governments. But critics argue it's part of a broader digital censorship trend, especially targeting younger generations. After all, TikTok isn't just about dances anymore. It's a platform for news, activism, and self-expression. So what does this mean for you? If you're a student or educator in Texas, your digital habits are already being monitored and limited, even on your personal device if you're using public Wi-Fi. And it's not just TikTok. Experts warn that this sets a precedent for banning other apps or platforms the state deems inappropriate. Here's what you can do. Start exploring alternative tools to connect with your audience, stay informed, and share your voice. Whether you're a creator, a student, or just a casual user, staying ahead of these changes means you won't be silenced when the next app is targeted. Because in 2026, the fight over your screen isn't just digital, it's political. Number 3. Guns are everywhere now.
In 2026, Texas expanded its permitless carry laws again. If you thought things were already wide open when it came to carrying firearms, think again. The newest update now makes it even easier for people to carry guns in public without training, background checks, or permits, and that's raising a lot of eyebrows. Under the new law, nearly any adult over 21 can carry a handgun openly or concealed in most public places, including parks, shopping centers, and even some churches. The list of gun-free zones has shrunk, and the definition of who is qualified to carry has been relaxed. In some cases, even individuals with prior nonviolent offenses may now be legally armed in public. Why does this matter? Because the rules are getting blurrier by the day, and that confusion puts everyone at risk. Law enforcement officers now face the difficult task of figuring out who's legally carrying and who's not, often in split-second high-stress situations. And for everyday Texans, it means you could be sitting next to someone armed, legally, and never even know it. For business owners and schools, this shift means you must now take extra steps to ban guns on your premises, including posting very specific signage. Without it, guns may legally be allowed inside. So what should you do? If you're a parent, business owner, or just someone trying to understand your rights, it's critical to know where guns are now allowed and how to protect yourself or set boundaries if you're uncomfortable. Because in 2026, the question isn't who's carrying a gun, it's who isn't. And that reality is changing how we all move through public spaces in Texas.
Number 4. Property taxes changed. In 2026, Texas passed a major overhaul of its property tax system, and while some homeowners are celebrating lower bills, others are facing unexpected increases. It's one of those changes that sounds great on paper until you look at the fine print. The state introduced new appraisal caps, aiming to slow the rapid rise of home values, especially in booming cities like Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio. At first glance, this seems like a win for homeowners, but here's the catch. Not every county is affected equally, and some areas are using new loopholes to raise tax rates behind the scenes. That means while your home's value might be capped, your actual bill could still go up. And renters? You're not off the hook either. Landlords hit with higher taxes often pass those costs on to tenants through rent hikes. So even if you don't own property, you might still feel the impact of these changes, especially in fast-growing neighborhoods. Even worse, the new system has made the appeals process more confusing. Homeowners trying to fight unfair assessments now face tighter deadlines, more paperwork, and inconsistent county rules. It's leaving a lot of people feeling frustrated and, frankly, powerless. So what should you do? Start by checking your latest appraisal notice and don't ignore it. You have a small window to contest it if something looks off. Learn how your local county is applying the new rules, and if you're a renter, talk to your landlord about any planned increases. Because in 2026, understanding your property tax bill isn't optional, it's survival. One missed detail could cost you hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year.
Number 5. Books are disappearing from schools. In 2026, something quiet but deeply unsettling is happening in Texas classrooms and libraries. Books are vanishing, not because students stopped reading, but because lawmakers decided certain topics are now too controversial to be taught or even discussed. A wave of new education laws has led to hundreds of books being banned or pulled from school shelves. Titles that address race, gender identity, LGBTQ+ issues, mental health, and even parts of American history have been labeled as inappropriate or politically biased. In many cases, teachers and librarians are being threatened with penalties or even fired if they don't comply. This crackdown doesn't just affect what students read, it's reshaping the entire classroom experience. Teachers are now avoiding important topics altogether out of fear they'll say the wrong thing. Some schools have stopped offering certain elective courses, and students, they're left confused, unheard, and disconnected from the real world. What's more shocking is how fast it's happening. Some districts have removed dozens of titles in a matter of weeks, with little to no input from parents, educators, or students. These decisions are often made by a small group of people behind closed doors, and the public rarely finds out until the books are already gone. So, what can you do? If you're a parent, student, or simply someone who believes in open education, get involved with your local school board. Ask which books have been removed. Challenge vague or unjustified bans, and most importantly, talk to your kids, because what they're not being taught might matter more than you think. In 2026, the fight over books isn't just about paper and ink. It's about who gets to decide what's true and what's too dangerous to read.
Number 6. Your personal data? Texas just made it a battleground. In 2026, Texas rolled out its own version of a consumer data privacy law, and while it sounds like a win for everyday people, it's also raising some serious questions. On the surface, the new law gives you more control over your personal data, but when you dig deeper, the protections may not go as far as they seem. Here's the big change. Texas residents now have the legal right to access, correct, or delete personal data collected by companies, including websites, apps, and online retailers. That means if a company is tracking your clicks, storing your email habits, or selling your information to advertisers, you can demand to see what they have and ask them to delete it. Sounds empowering, right? It is, in theory. But here's the catch. Most people don't even know they have these rights, and companies aren't exactly eager to advertise them. Plus, the law comes with lots of exceptions. Small businesses, data brokers, and even some social media platforms may not be fully covered. And unlike some other states, Texas doesn't let you sue companies directly if they violate your privacy. So while you technically have more control, enforcing those rights is a different story. And in a world where apps track your every move, from your shopping habits to your sleep schedule, that matters more than ever. What can you do? Start by checking the privacy policies of apps and websites you use regularly. Look for "Do Not Sell My Data" links. Submit data requests if you're curious what's being stored about you, because the more you know, the more power you have. In 2026, your data is currency, and Texas just handed you the receipt. The question is, will you read it? Number 7. Your city's power? The state just took it away. In 2026, Texas passed a sweeping law that most people still don't know about, but it's already changing how your local city or town is allowed to operate. It's called the Death Star Bill by critics, and for good reason. It gives the state government power to override local laws, wiping out everything from environmental protections to worker rights with a single stroke. Here's what that means in real life. Let's say your city passed a rule requiring water breaks for outdoor workers during extreme heat. Under the new law, the state can invalidate that rule, claiming it conflicts with state-level business regulations. That's already happened in places like Dallas and Austin, cities trying to protect their residents only to be shut down by state lawmakers who don't even live there. The result? Local governments are losing control, and the decisions that once happened close to home are now being dictated from the capital. It doesn't matter if your community voted for something. If the state doesn't like it, it can be erased. This affects way more than you think. Noise ordinances, renter protections, pesticide bans, wage rules, safety regulations, even how your trash is collected. And unless you've been watching the fine print of state legislation, you probably had no idea it was happening. So what can you do? Get informed about what your local leaders are still allowed to do and hold your state reps accountable. This shift in power isn't just political, it's personal. It's about whether the people in your city still have a say in how you live.
Number 8. School choice expanded. In 2026,
Texas officially expanded its school choice program, introducing education savings accounts, or ESAs, that allow parents to use public funds for private school tuition, homeschooling, or online education. On the surface, it sounds like a win. More options for families, more freedom to choose the best education. But dig deeper, and the impact on Texas's public school system becomes impossible to ignore. Here's how it works. Every student who leaves a public school for an ESA takes thousands of dollars in state funding with them. That money used to support school staff, classroom supplies, lunch programs, and even building maintenance. Now it's being redirected, often to private institutions that don't have the same oversight or accountability as public schools. This means public schools, especially in rural and low-income areas, are being left behind. Fewer students, fewer dollars, and shrinking resources. And while wealthier families can supplement ESAs to cover private school tuition, many low-income families still can't afford the gap, even with state help. The result? A system where the gap between rich and poor schools grows wider, not smaller. And it doesn't stop there. Most private schools in Texas aren't required to accept every student. That means children with special needs, behavioral challenges, or from certain backgrounds may be quietly excluded, leaving public schools with fewer resources to support the students who need the most help. So what should you do? If you're a parent, take a close look at how your local public school is being impacted. Ask how many students and how much funding has been lost due to ESAs, and advocate for policies that support all students, not just a select few. Because in 2026, school choice didn't just offer options, it redefined who gets left behind.
Number 9. The power grid still isn't fixed. It's been 5 years since the deadly 2021 Texas blackout, and by now you'd think the state would have fixed its fragile power grid. But here's the shocking truth in 2026. The grid is still vulnerable, and the latest policy changes may have made things even worse. Instead of investing heavily in long-term, clean, and resilient energy sources, Texas has doubled down on natural gas and short-term fixes. New laws passed in 2026 offer massive subsidies to fossil fuel companies while putting tighter restrictions on renewable energy expansion, including wind and solar. That means fewer green energy projects are being built, even though demand for electricity is higher than ever. The result? The grid remains isolated from the rest of the U.S., and during extreme weather, heat waves, ice storms, droughts, you're still at risk of blackouts. In some regions, electricity providers are rolling out surge pricing during peak hours, leading to sky-high bills when you need power the most. Texans are frustrated. Families are still buying generators and backup batteries just to feel secure. Small businesses are struggling to keep their doors open during outages, and yet there's little transparency or accountability about where the money is going or why the grid remains so fragile. So what can you do? Start by understanding your local power provider's plan for outages and pricing. Invest in backup options if you can. And most importantly, demand real reform, not just talk, from lawmakers and utility companies. Because in 2026, reliable electricity shouldn't feel like a luxury. And yet, in Texas, the lights can still go out at any moment, and no one's taking responsibility. Number 10. Immigration just got local. In 2026, Texas made one of its most controversial moves yet. It passed a law allowing state and local police officers to arrest people for immigration violations, something that used to be handled only by federal authorities. This shift has massive implications, and it's already creating confusion, fear, and legal chaos across the state. Under the new law, police officers can stop someone,
ask about their immigration status, and, if they suspect a violation, detain and process them for deportation. Critics are calling it state-sponsored profiling, warning that it opens the door to discrimination, wrongful arrests, and civil rights violations. Supporters say it's about securing the border. But for millions of residents, especially in immigrant-heavy communities, it feels like they're being watched, judged, and targeted just for existing. Here's the deeper issue. Texas officers aren't immigration experts. Unlike federal agents, they aren't trained to handle complex immigration cases. That means the potential for mistakes, abuses of power, and legal challenges is sky high. And it's not just undocumented people who are affected. Legal residents, U.S. citizens, and tourists have already reported being questioned or detained based on how they look or sound. This law is reshaping daily life in Texas border towns and big cities alike. People are changing where they drive, how they dress, even whether they report crimes, all out of fear that any interaction with police could spiral into something bigger. So what can you do? Know your rights and share them with your community. If you're unsure about your legal status, seek advice from an immigration attorney. And if you're a citizen, speak up, because silence only strengthens policies that hurt the vulnerable. In 2026, immigration isn't just a federal issue anymore. In Texas, it's on your street corner.
By now, you've seen just how much Texas has transformed in 2026, and not with loud announcements or breaking news headlines, but through quiet laws, overnight decisions, and fine print most people never read. From the ballot box to your child's classroom, from what's on your phone to who gets to stay in your neighborhood, the rules didn't just change, they shifted the ground beneath your feet. The most dangerous thing about these changes? Most Texans still don't know they happened, and that's exactly the point. These aren't just isolated policies. When you step back, you'll see a pattern, a slow, calculated restructuring of rights, access, and power. Laws that look harmless at first glance often carry consequences that touch every part of your life. And if you're not paying attention, they'll reshape your world before you even realize it. But here's the good news. Awareness is power. The more you know, the harder it is for these changes to go unnoticed or unchallenged. Whether you agree or disagree with the direction Texas is heading, one thing is certain. You deserve to know what's happening, and you deserve to have a voice in it. Because in 2026, staying silent isn't neutral. It's dangerous.